Hi, welcome to Improv Noob, the podcast where we learn how people learn improv. I'm your host, Jason Frankovitz, and with me today is Jeffrey Thompson. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, I almost said, hey, Jeff, back to you. I'm very good at talking to people. We're not in the middle of a quarantine. I've talked to like a lot of people recently.
Well, one J as much as another.
Yeah. Hey, Jason.
So you and I have just been kind of hanging out in kind of the same improv crowds for a number of years. Did we ever have a class together?
I don't think we did. I think it's always just been one of those like, oh, we have 200 mutual friends. We'll be friends eventually.
Right,
So
right. It's like once that, suggested friends thing just starts chasing you everywhere, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I got to take this guy's friendship seriously.
yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll do that. So just a little bit about shut up, phone. Stop it, phone. Just a little bit about Jeff. He is an MA and an MBA and an EA. What is an EA, by the way?
I love that question because an EA is a licensure from the IRS for tax preparation. So basically, let's say you were audited and you needed somebody to represent you before the IRS, you could reach out to a CPA or a tax lawyer, or you can reach out to an EA, and their specialty is taxation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you could help defend someone in front of the IRS.
Yeah, and I can also defend people in front of state tax bodies, and I could also prepare taxes. So it's super fun because people will like reach out to me and they'll be like, "You're a CPA, right? I need a CPA," and I'm like, "You probably don't. They can do attestation. I can't do that. Most people never will need that in their lives.
Mhm.
You just want somebody to do your tax returns. I can do that."
Okay.
So
That's MBA, MA, MBA, EA,
yeah.
but that's not all. You're an actor and a writer. Your day job is doing the tax stuff. Is that right? That's your main kind of money gig.
And I do some teaching on the side.
And some teaching. Yeah, it says you teach improv at Westside Comedy Theater in Santa Monica. You teach psychology at Citrus College.
Yeah, out in Glendora. So still Los Angeles, but still part of Los Angeles that people are like, is that Los Angeles? County,
wow.
Not city.
That's cool. I've never even heard of Citrus College, but it sounds refreshing. He currently has a roster of over 200 clients in the entertainment industry: actors, dancers, writers, cinematographers. You are involved with the Ruby LA, which is an improv stage, improv performance space.
Yeah, improv sketch. You know how all the theaters do like everything, but we do a lot of writing classes too.
But the Ruby is like specifically focused on like a diverse style of performance and a diverse style of performer.
Yeah,
right?
It's based on intersectional feminism, and so it's basically like we can do comedy without like it's just teaching people how not to punch down, and that's the foundation of it. Where it's like, some people are like, I can't do jokes anymore because I can't make jokes about how black people smell bad. And I'm like, there are other jokes. And also, what is that stereotype?
Yes, that would be a problem. Intersectional feminism isn't something I know a lot about, but I do know that they're doing a lot of, I know that they were doing a lot of awesome shows at the Ruby, before all the COVID stuff happened. So looks like you are responsible for part of that quality.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this with me today. I'm just going to ask you the same thing I ask everyone, which is, when you were first starting out in improv, there's a lot of things to learn. It's very complicated. It's very, there's a lot of details. Was there a particular moment where you saw something in a show, or you saw someone make a move in class, where you suddenly realized, oh, that's the point of doing that, or that's the lesson that they're trying to teach me, or I didn't understand why that worked until now, but now I understand why that worked because I saw someone do it the way it's supposed to work. Do you have one of those that stand when you think about your evolution as an improviser?
Yeah, so it wasn't exactly something that I saw, but something that I was told, and the way that like it was just so succinct and perfect that it like stuck with me. And it was like that scene in a movie where you hear like the thing right in the moment that you need it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off doing a lot of short form. I did 8 years of short form before I did like anything like close to like real long form. Actually, I did like a couple like 25-ish minute long formy-ish things. But other than that, I did like I was doing a lot of short form, and short form is all about like jokes, 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 jokes. Like you talk about that foundational stuff of like scene work and relationship, but it's all about like trying to be funny. Or at least that's what I believed. And then I once had a teacher say, you don't have to always be funny. There's never going to be a time when somebody walks away from a show and says, that show wasn't super funny. It was just good. I just enjoyed it, you know? Like, there's nothing wrong with putting on a show that, like, has, like, some emotional weight to it, where you have, like, characters, like, there are other emotions aside from laughter. You can make people feel sad. Yeah, you can make people feel amused. You can make people think. So I heard that and immediately was like, oh, that's a really great thing. Okay. And then I ignored it for another 3-ish years. But then I started getting kind of the same note from people in other ways, where people, like, I would get the note about like ironic detachment, where, you know, I'm commenting on the scene. I would get the note about like, you know, characters being like kind of shallow, or, you know, not really committing to them. And then there was a certain point where I had been doing shows for a while, and I was just like, you know, when you have like a weekly slot at a theater, sometimes you get to the point of like, I'm just going to try something different. And the thing that I tried was just not being funny. And I did that by just like having a character who like maybe like started off feeling really depressed, or was angry, or just like is a normal person living in the world. And what always ended up happening was something funny ended up happening, and then we followed that fun, and then it was delightful. But for me, it felt so much more rewarding because I got to like actually act. I was like a real character, and then I was like, oh, this is what acting feels like. I really am connecting to this person in this moment. And I was like, oh, and I think the audience appreciates it. And then my coaches and my teachers were like, oh, you're doing better work. This is the thing that we've been yelling at you to do for like the past 5,000 years. And then it wasn't until a show I did at Improv Theater like a couple years ago, which I think hands down is one of the best shows that I've ever done. But it wasn't one of the funniest shows. Like, I'm pretty sure funny things happened in the show.
Is the place in Los Feliz?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right on Vermont off of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And they really focus on narrative improv, and that's like the core of their teaching. And so I had taken classes there before. I was invited back for this show. So I got to like just turn that switch back on. And like, because I knew that that was welcome in the environment, I just acted. And then there was this one scene where I got broken up with, and then my ghost mom came back, and I literally cried on stage for a solid like 30 seconds. And I was like, oh, this is weird. I'm crying on stage. And then people were like, that was one of the best shows I've ever seen. I'm like, that's why we do it. We don't like, the laughs feel great. Mm-hmm. And it's great to be a comedian, and like, it's great to be funny. But like, if I'm just using that one tool, then I'm cheating my audience. I know that I can always make people laugh, mm-hmm. but let's fill in the other stuff. So that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I'm never going to like half-ass it again, even though I've half-assed it like a couple times. But in general, I'm going to try hard not to.
So that's not terribly different from my own kind of progression in that same subject. And my background is somewhat similar to yours, perhaps a little bit, because I also started out in short form. I was at LA Comedy Connection in Sherman Oaks for a while there. I took classes there, and then I was in the Sunday Company there. And it is, you know, short form is just about the jokes, and it's like it's the commercially viable form of improv. So, you know, the product is getting people to laugh. It's the jokes that get people to laugh. So, you know, you had to, you know, keep it going. And when I got to IO West in Hollywood, right, we won't get into it.
At least we still have IO Chicago. Wait, I just got a news alert from 3 months ago.
We're not getting into that one either. No one's getting into that anymore. It's sad. It's sad. But anyway, it was weird to me that this truth in comedy concept that it could work. I was like, no, you need to look for the opportunity to do something funny, and then do something funny, because that's puts butts in seats, and that gets you stage time. But then I read the book. I read the Sharna book, you know. And when I started practicing that in my scenes on stage at the beginning, it was very unsatisfying, because, you know, going for the joke is like snack food. It's like junk food. You can always have like a little quick hit of something that seems reasonably pleasurable, but it's you know, they're empty calories. It's an empty experience, you know, not empty, but whatever. It's not as cool. And it wasn't until I started focusing on being true to whatever character decision I'd made, and behaving in the reality of the scene that my partner and I had set up, that I was saying lines that would get laughs. And this is how I knew, because I didn't expect the laugh. I would just do something that made sense to whatever my POV was in the moment of that scene. And if I got a laugh, that was really kind of exciting, because now it felt unpredictable. And that was a whole different kind of challenge to work on, you know, other than, you know, going for the short form pun, or, you know, the wink and the nod. So yeah, it's the short form jokes, I think, are an easy way to get into improv and to see like, oh, this is some of the reaction I can get. I like that reaction. But then later on, hopefully you kind of develop, you know, into something that's a little more sophisticated, a little more kind of a richer experience for the audience. Yeah, that's your story reminded me of me a bit.
Yeah, so what you were talking about, like the laughs that you were getting, like there was a certain point where I started like noticing the quality of laughs that you can get from an audience. Because yeah, you can like, as you were saying, like make a pun, and then you get like a ha from somebody.
Yes.
And then I feel like some people go like, a laugh is a laugh. And
any laugh's a good laugh, right?
Yeah. Which is like why sometimes you have like people who like make audiences super uncomfortable, and then they're like, I did a show, I made somebody never want to come back to the theater again, but because it's nervous laughter. But I like those like really full, like people are hurting because it's just so like when the whole audience is on board and like you feel that connection. And I think that it's a lot harder to do that if you're not connected to the character. And yeah, like what you're saying, like when you're invested in it, like you're not trying to make it like the audience laugh, but when you're playing the truth in comedy, like it's just because it's honest and recognizable. Also, just real quick, I won't want some like person thinking that we're like bashing short form, because like we started with short form and then we moved on.
But now we're totally sophisticated.
Yes.
That's a good point. I wouldn't be I wouldn't be an improviser if it weren't for short form. Short form is entirely how I received my kind of scenic vocabulary that I could then deploy in a long form show. When I started, I was like, short form's the most fun. Short form's the most interesting. That's the thing I want to do. What am I doing here? Like, I'm doing all this Herald nonsense, snoozeville. And then over time, I was just like, oh, I'm learning this. I'm appreciating this more. I'm learning more about it. I prefer this now. But yeah, there's no, if it sounds like I'm saying, oh, yeah, short form, like that's not how I mean to say it. It was, it's incredibly valuable. And like I said, it's like short form improv is what makes money. You know, there's you know, it's hard to find a patron for, you know, a team to do a Herald once a week for years on end. Like that has to be a labor of love. But short form can actually cut checks. So it's very important.
Yeah. I also, I definitely love my short form experience because it does teach you how to find the fun and sayings. I was talking to, who was I talking to? Someone, but about like people who are sometimes like joyless players where they like, there's some like, so you heard that ding, right?
I did. I'm shutting it off right now.
Great. So the like that, if we were doing a scene, one of us would have acknowledged that, and like the back, like the other players on our team would have like also made like weird noise sounds, even though we're having this scene, which is an interview. We would have been like, that's a fun thing. Let's play with that, and then maybe we'll get back to the other thing. But like that, short form teaches us that like, when there's a fun thing, you just play with it, right? And I know used to be also that is like might describe it as like a game or something. But if there's an established game, then it's like a B game, whatever. But like short form is so great because you just have to be fun. You have to be energized. You can't be a short form player who's like this because this isn't short form. This is short form. Ha ha. Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, it's very, you know, short form is zip zap zop, you know, like that's the style of it. If you're not in an up mood, if you're not feeling like launching off of the back line, you know, well, you might not be as effective that show that night as, you know, your teammates may want you to be, as certainly as the audience probably wants you to be. Yeah, how would you summarize this lesson? If you had to boil it down to like a phrase, well, what would be the summary of this lesson for you?
Just be an actor. Just do good acting, and then everything else will fall into place.
Got it. So don't be a comedian, be an actor.
Yeah.
Good advice. Good advice. Okay. Well, that's great, and I think very sage. Very important. It took me a lot of years to learn that myself, so I can personally attest to the value of that lesson. Cool. Well, thanks again very much for talking to me about this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. No, I'm going to make a collection of 10 episodes, and then I'm going to release them all. And then, you know, hopefully people like them, have fun with them. If people are super into it, and want me to make more, then I guess I can make more at that point. And if not, then I will have fulfilled my requirement of producing a podcast during the quarantine, which is law.
I still need to do mine.
Snap to it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
Thanks again, Jeff. Good luck to you with all of your EA, MA, MBA activities. Hopefully you're doing a lot of taxes and teaching a lot of psych.
I am. I'm doing a lot.
Okay, good. Having work right now is only good in my book.
And best of luck to you with your work and your life. And maybe we'll, you know, not do the LA thing where we're like, so good to talk to you. Let's keep in touch. And then
right. Let's. I mean, honestly, I miss being at a live show so much. Like people are doing a lot of online improv, and a lot of people are doing good work and innovating stuff, and that's great and that's cool. It's just, for me, I haven't quite made the switch yet. It's not quite as engaging for me. So I am missing a real stage and a real house.
Yeah.
But when that does come back, I'm sure that we will see each other hanging out outside again, hopefully before not too much longer. So my guest today has been Jeffrey Thompson, multi-talented, highly employable. And thanks again, Jeff. I really appreciate it. For Improv Noob, I've been your host, Jason Frankovitz. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.